foreign, predatory, parasitic corporations are replacing our natural environment with an industrial landscape of wind turbines. One Nation will stand against sending children down a path of drug dependency and body mutilation to appease the gender cult. Leave our kids alone. The Trusted Digital Identity Bill is a global surveillance and control mechanism that profit-hungry corporations and power-mad politicians drafted and crafted. One Nation opposes this inhuman, dystopian future that the United Nations promotes as the Great Reset, and we condemn this Parliament for signing on to it. I called for Australia to reject the World Economic Forum's Great Reset and instead mount a great resist. Just like the koalas being euthanized to make way for wind turbines, or damaged solar panels leaking toxic heavy metals into waterways. The United Nations net zero plan again involves killing the environment to save it. I've been speaking about the fear, the oppression and the inhuman cruelty of our COVID response since July 2020. I promised to hound down those responsible, and I will continue relentlessly to keep that promise. You're about to be live with me, Senator Malcolm Roberts. Hi, and welcome to another Friday live stream. We're patchy lately because we've been doing a fair bit of travelling, but I've got three really big topics today. I want to finish with the first one I raised, which is the Royal Commission, the inquiry into the terms of reference for a Royal Commission. What a wonderful day it was yesterday. It was really, really wonderful. People got things off their chest, and 19 witnesses all unanimously supported a Royal Commission. So thank you very, very much. We'll talk about that later. I've got two really important things to deal with first. First is a promise I made to Pat Mesiti from the Gold Coast. He's going to tell us about a home invasion with youths using machetes and knives. Pat, are you there?
I'm here, Malcolm. Can you hear me? And can you
Over to you, Pat. It's your way you go. Tell people of Queensland and what's happening on the Gold Coast, because we've already mentioned these kinds of things happening in Townsville, Cairns, everywhere,
right across the country.
So what happened to your mate and your wife?
Yeah, thank you. Well, what happened to us was on the morning of the 30th of January, 5:30 a.m., my wife took our dog for a walk. We have our house all secure with cameras, thank you to the Hamas crowd. And we have cameras everywhere. But I was asleep. My wife was at the back with the dog. She left the front door unlocked. 6 youths with machetes and knives jumped our fence, came into our home, walked around, grabbed my keys, stole my car. And the brazenness of this attack, 5:30 a.m. in the morning, broad daylight.
Six people.
6 have been arrested, 3 are out on bail, 3 are in custody. And I just want to say this for the record. One of these kids' dad has a major business. Please don't believe these are all homeless kids. One of these kids' dad has a major business, and his major who can I say, clients, Logan City Council, Gold Coast Council, and Redcliffe Council. Lives in a $2.2 million home with sports car, yet his little mongrel son has to come to my house with his face covered and steal my car and in my home. And guess what? They're repeat offenders, Malcolm. Because of the security that we have in our home, again, because of our stand during COVID, we had to put security, and because of our stand against what's happening, we had to really secure our place up. We were able to catch these young criminals, and I wish people would stop calling them children, these young criminals, and again, they were caught within hours. I still don't have my car. It's not about the car. You know, what gets me is the Assistant Police Commissioner said this. I think his name's Cheney. Sometimes I don't like mentioning fools' names, but let's just talk about him for a minute. This is what he said. Half these break-ins wouldn't happen if your doors were locked, folks. Wait a minute. They're not supposed to be in my property with a machete and a knife, you moronic fool. Now, again, I know you're a gentleman, Malcolm, but sometimes I'm a street guy. I can't help myself. This same guy who is the Assistant Police Commissioner, I wrote him a letter. I called his office. I get the standard lame duck letter, and he says in this letter, it is not right, I'll give you the paraphrase, for the police commissioner to make comment on a case that is in progress. I didn't ask you to comment on the case. I know what happened in the case. I asked what you are doing to force the Labor Party to change the laws, of which your police force is exasperated. Listen, the Pimpamar Police and some of the Southport Police, they're doing a wonderful job. They're exhausted. They are exhausted. They catch these little criminals, and because of what Labor has done, I don't know if our viewers are aware, but under Campbell Newman, they used to have these youth retreats and they were pretty tough on juvenile crime. You committed the crime, you actually were dealt with. Now, this generation of untouchables, they are told in Section 20 of the Justice Act, page 20, they are to be reintegrated, kept in society, not taken out of community. Now, Malcolm, for our viewers out there, what I want everyone to know is I was the former director of Teen Challenge Drug Rehabilitation Centre. I graduated 400 young men from heroin, cocaine, amphetamine, crack addictions with an 86% success rate and no government money. And I can tell you how we did it. Strong discipline. When the courts couldn't handle them, they sent them to us. I can assure you that and we didn't have security, we had no electronic surveillance, it was on accountability. These kids have got no accountability. You know, Malcolm, I went after my local member, Mark Bootham, and to his credit, he came. His house was hit by a storm and came to my home, and we had a brilliant discussion. I've got a meeting with him this week. I'm still waiting to hear from David Christofouli. I told David, stop whining and come up with a damn plan. That's all he does. He whines. And I never hear anything about how to, I've got some notes here. How do we, there needs to be some punishment. Punitiveness is not a bad thing. Number two, there needs to be a re-education of these kids. Number three, there needs to be a re-education of these kids, reintegration. But these kids need to have some sort of place where they can actually eventually get a job. Malcolm, yesterday I was on the phone to one of the major leading charities who works with kids on the streets. And you know what they said to me? This blew me away. A lot of these children, and they're under 15, by the way, some as young as 12 in my home, they are children that are a result of the baby bonus. Remember when they handed out $5,000 for kids to have babies?
Yep.
A lot of these kids are a result of that. They have no parents. Now, in one of the instances of one of my case, I know where the guy lives. I know his address. I can't name them. I can't shame them. I can't say a thing. But what is interesting to me, I can't name and shame. You can't name and shame. The news and media can't name and shame. But these kids can post on their social media what they're doing and brag about it. One of them goes, I got caught. I got arrested. I'm out again. Yay.
So Pat, here you are asleep in bed.
Yep.
Your wife is in the backyard with the dog. If she'd walked in and this machete-wielding youth,
Yep.
6 of them, who knows what would have happened? Plus, you've lost your car. You still haven't got it back. Yeah, and the police. We know from what we've listened to, something similar to that up in Townsville, and the whole crowd was horrified what was going on. An elderly man. I won't go into the details, but same in many other cities. These children are untouchables. They're criminals. I agree with you. They're untouchable. The police sometimes just catch and release. That's all they can do. I'm pleased to see that 3 of them are locked up. That's wonderful. The judges,
temporarily so.
Yeah.
Malcolm. But what people need to wear, I'm not some ogre trying to throw these bums in jail, lock them up for life. I'm not saying that. I worked with troubled kids my whole life. I'm 64 years of age. Since I was 20 years of age, I worked with teenagers. We need to have, number one, strict minimum sentencing. Strict. First offence, we'll give you a little slap on the wrist. Second one, you are now beginning to form habits. I know addictive habits. So at the second offence, they should be punished. When that happens, they need to be placed in programs.
And if it's serious enough, you punish them after the first one.
Well, exactly, but they won't, and they don't.
Yeah, the judges are facing lenient laws, so we do recognise that these people should know what's the difference between right and wrong. They do know that. So there's punishment there. But Pat, what I was getting to was that a young person, 13 years of age, hijacked a car and killed 3 women. One of them was in her 50s, the other 2 were young, up in Bundaberg. And I'll always remember this. The sister of the dead middle-aged woman. We had a public forum with her in Hervey Bay, and her brother and the mother of the dead woman, and the sister was really about to unload on this 13-year-old, okay, the guilty one, and she just paused, and she stepped back, and then she said, that 13-year-old is a victim as well. He's a product of the society we live in,
100%.
because people aren't taking responsibility. But then another wonderful man called Chris Loft up in Maryborough, wonderful guy. I won't go into the details, but he said he's been to jail, wrongly in my opinion, but he's been to jail and he came back and said there's no rehabilitation at all. And what we've seen is these young kids, 13, 14, 15, 16, put them in the right hands, give them some meaning and some purpose, and they are world beaters. They are world beaters. So there are three problems. One is the creation of these thugs. Second is putting them back on rails, and that usually solves it. And we've seen remarkable successes around the world on that. Then the third one is if they still don't rehabilitate, hit them hard.
Malcolm, for our viewers out there, I was one of those kids. Now, I never stole anyone's car, but I was a real rough nut and I grew up on the rough side of town. I worked with teenagers my whole life. I reached 1 million students in high schools in this country over a 10-year period from 1990 to the year 2000. And I'm telling you right now, what this generation is craving for is, number one, some fathers. Do you know what one of the top detectives in this state said? We have a fatherless pandemic. They're nothing but sperm donors. That's all they are. The second thing is they need boundaries. Our woke culture has got no sense of any moral absolutes. Do you know what? I was speaking to one of the major, let's call him psychologists, youth psychologists, and he said, Pat, they're in their brain to pat a dog is like, you're weak, you're a moron, whatever. But to kick the dog, oh, you're a champion. And these kids are victims. They're victims of fatherlessness. Secondly, and I'm gonna say this, they're victims of a pathetic Labor government. They don't care. World Economic Forum and the rest of these people, what they want is anarchism. They can control anarchy. They can control it. You say, how do they do that? They pay you to live in nice residential housing. A lot of these kids are living, watch this, paid by the government in opulent surroundings. And the carers have got no say as to what they can do. If you read the magistrate's bench book, the magistrate's hands are tied because, I'm going to say it, the woke, weak Labor Party laws. The Diane Farmer, head of juvenile justice, I called her 4 times. I finally got an answer from one of her PAs.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that. That was disgraceful.
This is amazing. She says, this is what she said at the press conference, come the election, we'll give proof about what we're going to do. Wait a minute. Come the election. But again, why can't Christofouli and Miles have a bipartisan agreement? Why do we need to wait for an election? People are getting shot. Young men stabbed in the heart, died by a juvenile. I mean,
Pat, we've only got a minute left because I really must get on to Daniel. No, you've been wonderful. So your wife was threatened. You had limited response from the Labor government at all. You had somewhat good response from your LNP member, local member. You've been disappointed with David Christofouli. You've given us several solutions. But it's not just fatherlessness that's the problem. It's a woke society that's bending to the World Economic Forum and the UN, because men are being destroyed and becoming neutered by the culture. You've also talked about responsibility and accountability. What I found is you give someone, an errant person, whether they're 60 years of age, 30 years of age, 13 years of age, you give them some accountability and some responsibility, and they turn around. They turn around. Give them some meaning and purpose. How the hell can we give someone meaning and purpose when we're telling them, since they just came out of the womb, humans are greedy, rapacious, uncaring, irresponsible, and all the rest of it, and your world's going to end in 5 years, it's going to boil. I mean, what's the point? What's the point? So we've got to start telling the truth and stand up and talking more about the reality of what's happening in our society, Pat.
Correct. And we need to stop having this disease called blamatitis, where they're blaming everybody. I said to one parent one day when I was working in drug rehab, she kept saying, Johnny's a good boy. My Johnny's a good boy. I said, your Johnny is not the good boy. Your Johnny is the problem.
Well, actually, she's the problem, I think. But Pat, how's your wife now?
She's doing pretty good. We're getting dressed up to go to visit. We're down in Sydney here at the moment, going to go to dinner. It was a bit rough. I could bring her on camera, but she may not want to do that. But Christina, you there? Oh, there she is. Yeah, she's here. She's all. There you go.
Hi, looking
Hey,
gorgeous as usual.
hey, good to see you, Malcolm.
It's good to
Thank
see you
you very
healthy,
much
not
for
with them.
thanks for everything you're doing, Malcolm. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Really good.
It's out there.
Thank you. And thank you, Pat, for... See you later, Christine. Enjoy your night out together. And thank you for taking the time interrupting. I've been
Oh,
meaning to get you on because it was very important. So thank you. Without prompting,
thank
you
you.
came up with solutions. So thank you very much, mate.
Thanks so much, Malcolm. God bless you.
See you, mate. Have a good night.
Bye bye.
I'm going to introduce Daniel. Daniel. Hello, everyone. Meet Daniel. Where do you live, Daniel?
I live in southeast Queensland, a little place called Greenbank.
Greenbank, near Ipswich, for those who don't know. I don't know. I've never met Daniel face to face. I've met him over the phone, and this is the first time I've seen his face. So I'll just bring everyone up to date, and the reason why Daniel is going to take us over for the rest of the show. Friday week, 1 week ago, Friday, I got a call from a supporter of ours, One Nation supporter, and he said, mate, is there anything you can do to help a guy who's just working his ass off in Ipswich, and he's beside himself because what is happened, what Nigel said to me over the phone was that Daniel is trying to help people in 5 different locations in Logan Council area and Ipswich City Council area, and these people are homeless. There's up to 50 or 60 of them in every location, and they're homeless and they're being moved on. They're being moved on regularly by the city councils, not being helped, being moved on, turfed around. And you were talking about, Nigel was talking about the next day.
Australia Day.
And he was calling me on Australia Day, on the eve of Australia Day, rather. They were going to move people on from Willowbank. So, Daniel, you've been volunteering. I'm going to ask you about what you do in a minute and ask you to share that. But you've been volunteering. You've been serving people food. You've been serving people other services, which I'll let you explain. You tell us what you've been doing,
Mate, I'll be really quick as I can. I worked as a
plenty of time.
and a youth worker for 15 years. Then I had a situation where the abuse of young people was being whitewashed. I ended up reporting it to the Royal Commission, and things went pretty south after that. Had about 3 years of recovery time, and
they went south because your church was criticised.
Just the end of stress upon me, I just broke down in the end. They were whitewashing the abuse of kids. Terrible. So had about 3 years off, and then we came back. We ran a food bank and an op shop in the Flagstone, Jimboomba area for a couple of years. Lots of difficult stuff happened in our family. Family split up. And for the last 10 months, I've been running a program caring for homeless people.
Can you tell us what that involves? And you've got 5 camps, basically, that you're serving people sleeping in tents, cars, caravans?
6, actually. Can I tell you, Malcolm,
6?
really quickly how we started?
Yep.
Coming out of a big dark hole in my life, I was a sobbing mess for a while, and one day, I used to be a pastor, so the Bible's in my head at some capacity, and I remembered God brought to my mind a beautiful passage that said, "We're more than conquerors through Jesus Christ who loved us." I have to be a sobbing mess for the rest of my life. I've got some health, I've got some strength, and I've really done a lot of thinking, looking into the whole victimhood thinking that pervades our society. I thought, I'm not a victim. I've got resources, I've got God, I've got friends, I've got all sorts of stuff. And I just said to God in the quietness of this caravan that I'm living in right now, if there's anything you want me to do, let me know. And a couple of days later, I really got impressed to do something for homeless people. I didn't know exactly what, so I said, God, I'm willing. And 2 days later, I got a phone call from a mate, and he said, Dan, I'm giving you a truck, which blew me away, 6-pallet truck. And a couple of days later after that, we got a phone call from a warehouse, and we received 30 pallets of brand new designer clothes. Not just new clothes or second-hand clothes, but designer clothes. So I was pretty excited that all the communities that wanted jeans during winter had brand new designer clothes jeans in the homeless community. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
And we got bulk food a couple of days after that, 20-something pallets of food, and it's still rolling. Just last week, we had 14 pallets of bulk food donated to us. So, yeah, it's gone from there. So
tell us about, so that's your background. Tell us about what you're doing now and the 6 different camps and who's in them, because this belted me right between the eyes. I'm driving down the road listening to Daniel, and he tells me that, I said, where are these people from? Because I get the sense that they're not hobos, they're not derelicts or what people look down upon. They're decent people. I mean, a derelict or a hobo is a decent person as well, but you know what I mean. These are people who are trying to work hard. These are people who are trying. And you said one of them, well, you said some of them are... what was it now? They said no to the COVID injection mandates, lost their job, and now they're out of house.
Lost their job, lost their house, homeless.
Yep. So tell us a bit about the people, and then tell us a bit about the structure, the 6 different camps.
I'd probably say about the people, there's probably, and this is, just off the top of my head, there's probably about 10% of the people that I'm in touch with who are on the road for a really wide range of reasons. Some people have lost relationships and they're just escaping and trying to survive, and there's some really sad stories behind that, but there's a lot of people who have lost their homes as a result of the rental increase in Australia. That's probably the largest proportion of people that I'm aware of, and that is just horrific. When I was running,
can't afford the rents anymore.
That's correct. Well, there's a portion of can't afford anymore, but a lot of people just get thrown out of their homes. So the people who own the homes sell them at high prices, and they ask, can I still stay on renting? No, we're starting again, and they can't get back in. There's the
vacancy rate. Oh, what was the figure? It's never been lower. I remember one of the staff in our Senate office team, he told me a month or so ago it had never been lower. Well, guess what? It's recently lower again. It's almost zero. Keep going. So there's nothing to rent.
Yeah, that's right. So people simply are faced with this. They're not ready for it, and it's just hit them, and they're not sure what to do. And so, they think, tent, what are we going to do? And so there's a lot of people who face that situation, and then there's more and more people that I'm meeting.
So some of these people have still got a job they're going to.
Yes.
I'll ask you to tell us about that later.
Facing depression and the inability to work. It's pretty hard trying to look after a family and keep a job when you're living in a car. That's crazy.
Well, it's simple, basic matters like, where do you get a shower when you go to turn up at work? Where do you go to the toilet? These things. But tell us more about the backgrounds of the people. What other backgrounds?
Yeah, so there's the housing crisis. Then there's the people who have lost their jobs. A lot of people got really smashed during the COVID period, for varieties of reasons. Industries closed down, and as you mentioned that story that I shared with you, one of my mates, he lost everything.
And small business owners, because small business was hammered in COVID. Well, sorry, hammered during government's response to COVID.
Yeah. I'm still getting to learn. I've been doing this for 10 months, and people are starting to tell their story. Just the homeless care I've been doing for 10 months now. Yeah. People are starting to tell their story. It's not a story that people like to share. Most people, when it's such a traumatic story in their lives, they want to, put it down and just survive. Some people are wanting to move forward, but a lot of people are just in survival mode, and I'll tell you a few reasons why shortly as well. And
okay,
this is on the ground.
So keep going. Sorry?
I said, this is just from my observation on the ground, just talking to people and watching over the last 10 months.
Okay, so you've got 6 camps you're looking after. Tell us a
Yeah.
bit about the camps, how they're structured, where they are, and before you do so, we know that there are people camping in tents, families, individuals, couples, on the banks of the Brisbane River. They're at South Brisbane. They're at West End. They're at New Farm. They're at North Quay. So we went down and had a chat with them. Really nice people, and they're really treated like scum. But they're really decent people, and some of them are there for the reasons you mentioned. Some of them are there with mental health issues, but they're nice people. They're really nice people. And yeah, okay. This living in tents is real. We saw them up in Bundaberg. We saw them at the showgrounds at Gladstone. You see people around. Some of them sleeping under bridges. This is what's happening in Australia right now.
Yeah. There's a magazine that's just been published, I think it's called My Logan. I took the photos for the front page. Just some of the, I've just been taking photos every now and then just for a record. And it's a park in Beenleigh. And it's a lovely park. No one's allowed to camp there. It's filled with tents. Then they have a gated off section with a little walkway. And out the back of that section, it's really messy and dirty and smelly and dark and tough for those people. It's like something I've only ever seen on TV before in different other countries.
Here in Australia.
Pretty horrible. We give out tents every week, and we basically collect throughout the week. We used to have a local business, and they're no longer able to do that, but we have other people collecting and dropping off. We collect food, clothing, bedding, camping equipment, personal hygiene, kitchen products, only plastic stuff and cutlery, and we collect that and we make that available to people every weekend at those 6 different camps.
So you've also got sorry.
We visit 4 camps on Saturday and then 2 on Monday, and the rest of the time we spend
collecting goods and donations. Yeah,
and also that I'm aware of, we've had 5 people. For some reason, someone's bashing on my door. Guys, I'm just on an interview.
Yeah, you keep going.
So, yeah, what was I saying, Malcolm?
There's something about Saturday, I think.
Yeah, no, that's right. In my observation, we had 5 or 6 people who've been given housing in the last 10 months from these 6 communities that I care for. And so what I've observed is that they go through an organisation that the government has contracted to care for these people. They have a case manager who takes them, often from a not-for-profit organisation, puts them into a flat at very discounted rent, gives them a blow-up mattress, and leaves them. And so these people, it's really tough for them because they moved out of that community that they've been surviving and starting to have some relationships in, and they're left in the home now, isolated on their own. So in response to that, we've been putting it out on Facebook amongst the community, and people have been donating furniture, white goods, all sorts of stuff. And so as quickly as possible, we fill those homes for people.
Right, and you make sure someone goes there to see them.
Yeah, well, part of what we do when we drop stuff off, we spend time talking and caring for them. I was privileged to be aware of some research about addiction and different ways that governments are handling that. As most people have this war on drugs, and it's a big hostile thing. One beautiful city in Europe decided to put their resources instead into building community and creating community, and they found in 1 year a 50% reduction in illicit drug use just by creating community for people. So
I don't know much about it, but as far as from what I've been told and read, drug addiction is quite often to fill an emptiness, fill a craving for an emptiness, a hurt, a pain, a deep-seated pain.
Hopelessness, trauma. We go to addictions, whether it's drugs, whether it's pornography, whatever it is, whatever excesses we go to, it's just the brokenness. Yep,
that's a very, very effective way of putting it. So you're finding people who are under pressure, of course. They're living in cars with kids. Tell us about the rangers that come and threaten to steal your child, and in some cases do steal your child. Tell us about that, because Daniel, we had a wonderful conversation on Monday, I think it was, and the next day he sent me a long text, and this just about broke my heart.
It breaks my heart too.
Can you tell us about what the rangers do with kids?
So they have a responsibility. They go around every day. I speak with
Who are the rangers? They're from the city council?
Yeah, from the local council. And I've only been in touch with the guys from the local city council, but I have been told that the rangers visit the other places as well. And they've got a tough job, those guys on the ground, as far as the policies. So the policies in the Free Stay parks are 3 days in a month that people are allowed to stay there. After that, they have to move. And there are
So
not
then
enough.
they can't come back for almost another month, another 27
That's
days.
correct. That's
So they've got to
correct.
find. That means they've got to find 10 different places to camp if they want to stay in that city council.
That's correct.
Three nights in each.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's basically an impossibility. It's an impossibility finance-wise. A lot of people who are not working are on some sort of government pension, and they just physically cannot afford, even if they put all their finance into the petrol to move around. Then they've got to live. They've got to afford food.
You would spend in that circumstance, Daniel. You'd spend hours looking for somewhere to stay, just looking for somewhere to park. You'd have to scope out the area. You'd have to see whether it's vulnerable. Gee.
You think about the emotional toll of being insecure and having to put all your energy into just finding the next place, and worrying about, well, that place is safe, that's not safe, there's people who take drugs there, and there's violence there, there's not here. And, rather than having the opportunity to move forward and put energy into that, people are absolutely overrun just with the stress of this. It's crazy.
And the pressure is just enormous. So you were saying that some of the rangers take the kids.
So my observation, I haven't actually seen it take place, but I've spoken with many people on the ground. Basically, when you become homeless, your kids get taken off you by docs and the
Department of Child Services, state government, Queensland Department. Yep. So they take the kids off the family if they're homeless.
Yes, and they're put into foster care. So
you were saying the other day this is a new stolen generation being developed.
I've just started to think about it that way, yes. And one of the reasons it's so painful is at the other end, the first family, they were living in a house, then they moved in, the real estate agent was very unscrupulous, as they reported it to me, and tried to bill them for the previous year's bills of the previous person, and they had a horrible time, and eventually they left that house. They couldn't find another house, so they moved into an old caravan. They were then told they wanted to get housing, but according to government rules, caravans are deemed as a house. So they were told they had to move out of a caravan into a tent so that they could be deemed homeless, so that they could then be given a house. And they did that. They moved into a tent for 2 months in a park in Beenleigh. And it was while they were in the park in Beenleigh that they had their children, they had bikes for their kids, and they were riding around. They were having a joyful time. They were very carefully monitoring them. There was some feud by someone else, and it was reported that the kids were in danger. Docs took the children.
And from what I know of Docs, from various people who've had interactions with them, Docs doesn't listen. It just does what it wants.
Yeah, I've not had significant interactions with them before, but this going on with that story of this family. So they then got a house. Docs told them they wouldn't get a house in a hurry. They said that there was some support from the Rangers or something to get a house, and I really don't know 100% what happened, but they got a house after 2 months, and we stocked that house within 2 weeks. They had the best appliance. It was just amazing. I was so excited doing that. And they got this house beautifully stocked. Their bedroom, the kids' bedroom, they'd gone around second-hand stores and been scrounging beautiful things. had the kids' favourite stuff, bunks set up. It was just lovely. And they went to get their kids. No, you can't have the kids back. And they were told that they'd been involved in illicit drug taking, all sorts of different stuff. The guy said they've never been near this. And after listening to them for some time and observing the battle, I put the call out, and we actually had someone who was sponsoring their legal fight to try and get their kids back. And
Wow.
as far as I'm aware, they still haven't got their kids back.
So you're organising many different services, not just goods and food. Many different services. You're even arranging for car parts to come for people who've got a car that's broken down.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to respond on the ground. There's very little official. We just last week we became official recipients of volunteers, so people can come and volunteer with us through work for some volunteer work program with Centrelink. So other than that, we're basically just very raw on the ground, helping people and responding to needs. So yeah, so we're doing that. I've got an account with a wholesale account with a car parts supplier, so that we can get cheap parts for people. We saved a lady $300 with one part last week, and that's an awful lot of money when you're hard to get anything and you're living on the road. So we do that sort of stuff.
So let's just talk about the cause of this, because I've been pretty outspoken about this in Parliament and in public and on the street for many months now. My staff have become very attuned to immigration. Immigration has become very, very high. We have a population of 27 million people, just turned over 27 million people, decades before the schedule that they expected us to turn up to 27 million. Decades. I think they're expecting it in the 40s. So we're increasing in population dramatically. We've got 27 million people here now. 2.3 million visas in the country. That's 2.3 million people looking for a bed and for a house and a roof. That's 2.3 million people taking accommodation, bed, roof off an Australian. Add another 400,000 tourists, and some of them are looking for Airbnbs. And some people who have rental properties think there's more money to be made in Airbnbs, so that they turn their property over to Airbnb. That's less rentals available. We have accommodation for 100,000 students, university students. We have 540,000 students in the country. So we are just bursting at the seams. And what we've said in One Nation is that we should stop immigration to the point where we only let in enough people to replace those who leave. In other words, you let in the same number as who leave every year. And the people who leave every year, 70 to 100,000 roughly. So we should only be letting in that many. Now, the figures start getting confusing once you start getting into a little more detail. But they're the key figures to remember. 2.3 million people on visas, not counting the 400,000 on tourism visas, not counting the students, about 540,000. That's a hell of a lot of people. They're all wanting services, they're all wanting houses, they're all wanting beds, all wanting roofs, and that drives up the price of houses. So why are these people coming in such record numbers? And Anthony Albanese has let in something like 560,000 for immigrant visas, eventually becoming residents in this year. Up until recently, it's been roughly around 200 to 250,000. And the Labor Party says, we've got to catch up with what it was before COVID. Well, they caught up in January of last year. That's when they got to 1.9 million people on visas. So now we're 20% above that on people on working visas. So there are lies being told. I'll tell you why immigration is so high. For many, many years, and the Liberals in government were doing this as well, Daniel. For many, many years, we have been on a per capita recession. That means per person, our economy is going backwards. But if you flood the joint with immigrants, they become customers. They become consumers. That raises our gross domestic product. So we don't have a technical recession as a country.
So
a recession is... So technically, a recession is two quarters in a row of negative growth. We shrink in our economy. So the way to stop the economy shrinking in total is to bring more people in. They don't give a damn about the loss of accommodation, etc., and the driving up of rental prices, the driving up of house purchase prices, the unaffordability of housing. They just want to make sure that they are not tagged with the tag. The recession started when Albanese was in government. The recession started when Morrison was in government. Plus, we've had huge inflation. Costs are driving people going through the roof.
Yeah.
A lot of that has been manufactured by the COVID response, which has been to shut down a lot of production. So supply side is decreasing, which means it's just starting to recover now, which means that prices are going to rise because you've got too few goods. Plus, they printed so much money. So this has all been conjured up by government. I don't think it's deliberate. I don't think they're that heartless. But they don't give a damn, so they are heartless to some extent. So that's why it's happening. And what happens is the people living under trees and in tents and in caravans and in cars in Beenleigh, in Logan, in Brisbane and Ipswich, and on the riverbank just out here, they can thank the governments, Morrison, probably Turnbull before that, Morrison and Albanese for driving up house prices, driving up rentals because of the flood of immigration. So it's just to prop them up from saying that they're not in recession. And yet, technically, per person, we are in recession. It's bullshit.
Hey.
They don't care, mate.
And it's simple supply and demand.
So tell me a bit about the structure. It sounds like you've just worked and you've just been working, serving people, and others have come along to help you, and it's grown from there.
Yep.
Have you got an organisation? Have you got a Facebook page, website, something you can tell people if they want to volunteer, if they want to donate items or donate money?
For sure. Can I tell you a couple of positive things before I share that?
Yes, it's yours. Away you go.
So, one of my mates, Graham Hood. I don't know if you've met.
Hoodie, yeah, he's good.
Yeah, when we went down, he and his wife were very wonderful people. He rang me every week. I had depression and PTSD. I was a real wreck. I locked myself away in the house for a few years. Rang me every week, and he and his wife financially supported us to pay the rent.
Wow.
Well, I'm so grateful for what they've done. But they've also been, talking to their friends about what's happening. I've been putting posts up on Facebook, and people are becoming aware. I don't know if you're aware, there's a company, Drifter Stockton, outdoor camping and four-wheel drive products.
Drifter, yeah.
Luke Sutton is the manager there, and they've just recently sent us a huge pallet of high-quality, wonderful products, tarps, chairs, tables, water bladders, all sorts of wonderful things. And their ongoing support, they have a drop-off point at their Slacks Creek store now for people to come and bring donations of camping equipment, bedding, etc. And it was just a real joy to be able to hand out some good quality stuff. People are in tears to see the joy, to see the generosity coming to them.
Mm-hmm. That's Hoodie.
And Luke has now spoken to one of
Luke.
his mates, who is the company's called Julka. They make instant hot water systems. So we just had the first shipment of hot water systems from Melbourne come through.
What?
Instant hot water systems with double camping showers. So what we want to do is be able to get trailers with 1,000-litre IBC, those big plastic water containers with a steel cage, and then mount these showers on these trailers and take them around to the places where people are living so that they can have hot showers. I've had people, construction companies have offered to build block and tin roof showers on site. I haven't been able to get onto the council about that to get approval for that. One councillor said, there's no way I would never do that, because at that particular site it's too much maintenance. It floods every now and then. It'll just be a nightmare financially. And I hear it from that angle, but I also tend to head towards the compassion side and the welfare side of things more than I do the finance side of things when it comes to this volume of people and the problems they're facing. So we're looking forward to that. We've got no trailers at this stage, but we're going to keep looking. We'll scour marketplace. We'll approach trailer companies. We'll do whatever we can to be able to have showers on site for people, because the morale and the lack of morale not showering is horrible. When you go camping for a weekend, if you go remote, you don't quite wash properly. You're so grateful when you come back and have a
At
shower.
first, at first you love to be dirty, and then after a while you want to be clean again.
Yeah. So these guys are living, some of these in the tents in this summer heat. It's like 50 degrees. It's absolutely inhumane. So the last 2 weeks, people got smashed with the water. They got floods, so they got mud inside and outside their tents, and it's just an absolute mess. A guy woke up and the water was right at his bed level.
Just some water building up on the ground.
Yeah, and then he got, because he was camped in a park which had a little lake nearby. Then they got smashed with extreme heat. Then they got smashed with more storms. That community that got kicked out of Willowbank, they moved down to near a little town called Fernyvale. There were some free camping sort of spots there. They were there for 2 days, and then we had heavy rains. The floodgates were open on the dams, and they had a couple of hours to get out of there. They're now camped, last I heard from them, in a gravel road building pit up higher.
So imagine living like this, everyone. Imagine it.
And so, yeah, at that place, there's a really
In
stinky,
Australia.
dodgy old toilet. That's all.
Well,
So
that's
people,
the thought that
but
comes to my mind. When people pull up stumps and they have to go somewhere, they have to look for somewhere that's safe, somewhere that's safe from violence as well as water or flood, or they need toilets.
yeah,
They need.
and it's not that hard. I mean, the irony in one of our parks, we had homeless people struggling, and the council were building these amazing $100,000 or so flood height indicators, and there was this fancy thing being built, and the real needs of the people right behind them, within 20-30 meters, they were just there. And I think we can do a lot better as a society and as leaders and government in actually coming with compassion and caring for our people during this crisis that we have had hand in creating.
Yes, that word compassion seems to go at the door in Parliament House. People focus on politics rather than serving the country. It's just so annoying. I don't know what happened in the system. The people serve the party rather than serve the country.
Yeah, we need to get back to fair income, mate.
Yep, and now we've got people like yourself fulfilling the role and actually serving the people.
Yeah, well, we'll do our best.
So you found a lot of people in the community, small businesses, big businesses, actually handing you goods, handing you food. And you told me about a grocer. I think that any fruit and veggies left over, he gives them to you because they're still good quality. He gives them to you to give to your people.
We have a local fruit and veggie shop that they give us stuff at cost price, and then when we go there to pick the food up, because we can't take it all week because we're not out all week, and fruit goes off very quickly in this temperature. So when we're there, yeah, he gives us a lot of stuff too. But we buy food through financial donations that come through.
Okay. Can you give us some location as to where you're at, Facebook, website, whatever, and then would you mind answering questions if people have any questions that they'd like to put to us? Okay. So think about questions you want to put to Daniel or to me. In the meantime, Daniel, if you tell me how people can get hold of you, volunteer, serve.
If you want to see what we've been up to, you can look at Facebook. The charity that my wife and I started 13 years ago is called, there it is, Beyond Barriers.
Beyond Barriers.
So you can see that on Facebook. We also have a website.
Beyond Barriers, Restoring Lives. Okay.
Yes. We also have a website, www.beyondbarriers.com.au.
www.beyondbarriers.com.au.
Yes. So that website hasn't been populated with a lot of the work we're doing recently. We started off running camps for at-risk kids. I can relate to what Pat was saying. We used to take week-long intervention camps out in the bush, and we also had a mobile suicide prevention program that we're running. And we've just morphed as the needs have, changed within our community. We lost all our insurance during COVID for the adventure therapy side of things, and we're just working to get that back now. But yeah, the website also has a little donate button if anyone feels impressed to give. We survive purely on donations. We don't have an income stream and arm. If there's anyone who has any wisdom on how to be able to do that, please feel free to let us know. But other than that, we're surviving on donations, and after the first day that I emptied the back of that truck from all the donations, I thought, help, is this going to happen again? And we have not had 1 week where we haven't had a full truck.
Wow.
It's just too cool. If you have a look on Facebook, you can see some of the photos of the random stuff. When we fill the floor, we just have to go up. And it's been really wonderful. The generosity and care from our community has just been huge.
Well, that's a positive story. We could end right there. Anyone got any questions? I want to cover the inquiry that we had yesterday in Parliament House, Canberra, into developing the terms of reference for a possible Royal Commission. So I want to cover that. I think we've got 10 minutes left. Anyone got any questions of Daniel, or I'll go straight on to the Royal Commission terms? There's Linda. I don't know if you can see that, Daniel, but
Yes, I can.
Linda is... You can. Well, read it out.
Well, Daniel, you're really doing great things.
Yep. Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Linda. That's really encouraging. Yeah, that's cool.
Thanks, Angie.
What we're doing is not rocket science, and it's not hard. There will be businesses in local areas that would have trucks that are sitting idle that, you could go up and approach and say, could we just take something out? Could we borrow your truck on the weekend? And it's not hard to do.
Yeah. But then you got all kinds of paperwork and insurance and all the rest of it. But, there's ways of getting around that.
You can
Thank you,
operate
Angie.
underneath another charity. And I'm happy to talk with people about, furthering that.
There's Tracy Lee's comments. It is. And now you see why I've asked Daniel. I only met him for the first time on the phone, so now you see why I've asked him back. Because this really, just walking down with one member of my staff along the banks of the Brisbane River and talking to people in tents in Australia.
Yeah, that's
Sorry, you going to say something?
One of the things I'm probably very sensitive to about from my own journey as well, providing stuff for people. I'd love to be able to bankroll everyone into a wonderful house and a wonderful job and a wonderful life. I can't do that. But I know that when I was really down, people who came by and cared, who gave time. We had people drop bags of food off to us. And some people came and put in some money in an envelope, etc., etc. And when they gave like that, it just gave me so much hope. And so when we go out, that's one of our major principles. We don't regulate and control what we give. We believe that God's supplying abundantly, and He is, and we put it out on the table and people take what they want. And a lot of people are blown away because they're used to people coming and saying you can have one scoop of this and one scoop of that, and that's it for the night, But we're just giving it out there because I know how significant it is, and we need hope right now, big time. Does that make sense?
Yep, but you're giving people a lot of hope. And we're trying to back you up in Canberra by working on this immigration. We've got the Labor Party government now to actually admit that immigration is a problem, but when they're talking about solutions, it's bullshit. It's just whitewashing. It's nothing of substance. So, yes, Debbie, that's exactly what we say. Stop immigration, but stop it to the point where you let in only enough people to replace the ones who've left. So just put a pause on total immigration.
If we go down, we can't help anyone. It's just turning into a big mess.
That's right. Well, Daniel, I'm going to get on to give people an update on the inquiry because I was, for once, thrilled with something that happened in Canberra. Normally it's pretty... So thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, go for it.
We've received so far, and I didn't even think we were going to be doing this. So far, we've received 8 donated living spaces, so camper trailers and caravans that people are no longer using and they've made available. So they're all out being used, and it's such a morale booster and a health booster for people to move out of the front seats of cars and tents into lying flat. So if anyone has any of those sort of things lying around that you're umming and ahhing what to do with and you'd like to loan them or donate them to us, we'd be more than happy to receive them, and I promise we'll get them out.
Facebook and website again?
www.beyondbarriers, one word, beyondbarriers.com.au.
Okay.
But the
Thank you
Facebook,
so much for
where the
Facebook.
current Facebook is where the current information is about what's happening.
And what's your Facebook site?
Just Beyond Barriers, Restoring Lives.
Beyond Barriers, Restoring Lives.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Daniel, thank you on two accounts. First of all, for what you're doing, and secondly, for being my guest on this live stream. We normally don't have guests on live stream, but we've had two today. So thank you so much, because it's really important what you're doing, and we've got to highlight the cause of it.
Thank you, mate. We're on the same team, backing you two in any way that we can.
Team Australia. That's what we need to back.
Thank you for
See you,
your
mate.
time. God be with you. See ya.
Thanks, Daniel. Okay, I'm two remarkable people. I want to bring people up to date with the inquiry into the terms of reference for a possible Royal Commission. It's not a Royal Commission into COVID. It's an inquiry into the developing or drafting the terms for terms of reference for a Royal Commission. In other words, the scope, the how much can be spent, how long it'll take, the topics it'll cover, and who is on it, what sort of people are on it. And it was a bloody amazing day yesterday. I felt so positive, which is rare in Canberra, I can tell you. All 19 witnesses that we interviewed during the day, all 19 unanimously supported a Royal Commission. And not just, oh yeah, we should have a Royal Commission, but they were enthusiastic, really, really enthusiastic. Highlights of the day, Julian Gillespie's opening statement, 6 minutes of just gold. He summarised the absolutely deceitful and atrocious mismanagement of the COVID response by the state and federal governments. Absolutely nailed it. And then we also had Dr. Scott Prasser from, I think he's from Queensland now, but he made a fabulous submission. And then I thought, I better go and find out a bit about this guy. And lo and behold, I found out he's written 2 books about Royal Commissions in the past. And the guy was full of knowledge. Every question we asked him, bang, 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 just shared it on the spot. I should have got my No, I haven't got time to go through the number of people, all the people who gave witnesses there. But we had people from institutes. We had people from people. Oh, the highlight! I haven't got it with me. Piece of pages that thick. That's about 2.5 centimeters thick, from Julian Gillespie's People Submission. It is the best submission I have seen in any Senate hearing, any time. It was wonderful. And Julian is a former barrister, but he's been enraged by what's happening with COVID. And so the destruction of civil liberties, the destruction of human freedoms, the destruction of the health system, the destruction of trust in governments, the destruction of trust in health departments, the restrictions, the lockdowns, the complete disrespect, the lies, the secrecy, the things we were told by government, oh yeah, these are all safe and effective, when they'd never even been tested properly. So he just gave a great summary, Scott Prasser. And then we had people from institutes, as I said. We had people from formed groups. We had people from unions, nurses and midwifery of Australia. We had the Nurses Professional Association of Queensland. We had people from suicide prevention. We had people from Covers, and weren't they fantastic as well? A man and a woman representing thousands of people who've been injured by the COVID injections. They were both victims themselves. They're slowly getting treatment. They're helping people. They're doing research with institutes and universities overseas. I mean, these people are really switched on. And after 4 years of being smashed, they're starting to stick their head up now and starting to get back into life. The second thing that happened during yesterday was Albanese's review was absolutely smashed. It was slammed. It is seen for what it is, as whitewash. It has no power to compel witnesses. It has no power to get to the facts. It has no power to make inquiries. And it's staffed by people who are in the thick of things, and two who were blatantly supporting the world's most savage lockdowns, so they're in on it. And what is quite, and the states are not even allowed to be investigated. They cannot even be inquired into by this whitewash. It's a scam, and it was revealed as such. And the public pressure, I mean, you talk to people up in North Queensland the week before last, wherever I go, people, when you raise COVID and you talk about the Royal Commission, got to have a Royal Commission. And Julian Gillespie's People submission yesterday, I said it was that thick. Half that thickness is really meaty material. The other half is bloody signatures. 3 or 4 columns of signatures on double sides of pages. 47,000 signatures from people. So he wrote most of it, but he also collaborated. He's done a wonderful job of leading a team. He's got amazing people, doctors, lawyers, human rights lawyers, nurses. He's got professionals from statistics. He's got statisticians. He's got researchers over the world, medical people, all combined. He's pulled them all together with some help from many, many amazing people. They've stitched this thing together. It is wonderful presentation. It's comprehensive. But then the second half of it is just signatures. 3 or 4 columns of signatures on each page for 120 pages. Just stunning. 47,000 signatures. Back it up. So it's not Julian Gillespie's submission. It's the People submission. So, Anthony Albanese, a question for you, mate. Why are you not having a Royal Commission? You promised a Royal Commission as part of your election promise. The leader of the Senate for the government now was chair of the committee, the Labor committee, that had an inquiry in the Senate before they were elected as government, when they were in opposition, and they recommended a Royal Commission be held. So the Prime Minister made a promise. Senior members of his government recommended a Royal Commission. Now they're wanting to shove it all under the rug. What has he got to hide? And think about this. Robo-debt was savage. Within 3 months, they started a Royal Commission into robo-debt, this Albanese government. And now they've been in office almost 2 years, and they have not even talked about a Royal Commission other than to say they're not having it, breaking their promise. Now, this inquiry, as I said, is a Senate inquiry. It was my motion that we managed to get over the line. And I must thank Albanese, Anthony Albanese, for getting our motion over the line. Because you see, we sensed a big change in the mood of the Senate and the mood of the people when Anthony Albanese said, no Royal Commission, we're going to have a dodgy inquiry, a whitewash. People were incensed, including politicians. They've got thick skins, but even they were incensed. So when I moved my motion, it got support because no one would dare to go against it. So we got our inquiry up. Now, the inquiry is not into COVID itself, but it is having an effect, and I'll explain that. That's the second effect. It's an inquiry into developing the terms of reference for a Royal Commission so that when he eventually succumbs, and he will, to a Royal Commission, it'll be ready to go, and away we go. When the Royal Commission is called, there'll be draft terms of reference ready to go. And if you watched listened to the proceedings yesterday, you'll know what Scott Prasser, the IPA and the AIP said. The Human Rights Commissioner, Lorraine Finlay, and isn't she a marvellous woman? Man, she's strong, which is a nice change for the Human Rights Commission. So the second thing is that Anthony Albanese, by having our inquiry into the drafting of terms of reference, it gives people a platform, and people took advantage of that wholeheartedly yesterday. They were able to spill their guts, open their hearts about their pain, about the lies, because we don't want to make these mistakes again. We want to stop governments making the mistakes that Morrison's government and the Labor premiers made during the last 4 years. We have got to get to the bottom of this to restore trust. They're not my words. They're the words, I certainly believe it, that's why I said it, but they're words that were said repeatedly yesterday. We had mandates for a vaccine that did not stop transmission, for an injection that was not a vaccine. We had mandates forcing people to choose between feeding their children, keeping their job to feed their children, or going without a vaccine and preserving their health. Secret health advice, repeatedly. It's top-class science, but it was never published. They had established plans for a pandemic, a proper pandemic. COVID wasn't a pandemic. There was no pandemic of deaths at all, excess deaths. The excess deaths came with the injections. That is abundantly clear statistically. The government in 2019 established plans for a pandemic and then promptly proceeded to ignore them, just completely ignored them, contradicted them. a lockdown for a virus as severe as some flus. And actually, I eventually, after 12 months, and I wrote to Morrison and Palaszczuk, and I couldn't get in their replies any decent data. After 12 months, in March of 2021, I got a response from the chief medical officer saying that and he quantified it, put it on a graph. He showed that the severity of COVID was low to moderate. Low to moderate. And then if you strip it away and you realize that some people are highly prone to it, that means on average the community is very, very low severity, very low severity. It's no different to some past flus, no different to past flus. And yet we had the largest economic and human impact in terms of cost of humans in this country's history. The severity of the restrictions, the largest economic input, $500 billion and counting. Destruction of health departments. Human lives trashed. Suicides increased. The underlying evidence? Secret advice. The injections? The manufacturers indemnified. Contract, you paid for it. We as taxpayers paid for these injections. We can't even see the contract, what we bought. People kept saying yesterday, witnesses kept saying yesterday, they want truth. And the fact that they're so strongly pushing for the Royal Commission shows that the dodgy inquiries at state level, the dodgy inquiries that Anthony Albanese is conducting, the sham inquiries, the whitewashers, they're not getting to the truth, and the people bloody well know it. They want the truth. That's a huge part. They want to re-establish trust in government departments and the media. They can't trust them, and social media. People want to be heard. These are very, very powerful, strong feelings. So that's why I was so excited by yesterday. Not just the people like Julian Gillespie and Julie Sladen, Ian Bridehope and Peter Pham and Scott Prass, so many others from all kinds of backgrounds. We want to make sure that the same mistakes, the same crimes are not committed in the future when we have another virus, as we will, when we have another emergency. But as I said, next time make sure the virus is worthy of the treatment. COVID was not a serious virus to all but a few people who are vulnerable. So we need to make sure that we manage a virus, manage any emergency in the future with truth and trust. So I was really encouraged. The Labor Party senator present and the Green senator present tried to make out that people who were wanting a royal commission were conspiracy theorists or didn't know what they're talking about or anti-vaxxers. I mean, just a complete insult. That shows that they have no argument when they start using labels and speak derogatorily of people. That shows they've got no argument. They could feel it in the air, and the Green senator, in my opinion, started to show signs that he could start to see that this was a real issue. So thank you so much to all the people who've made a submission. The submissions are not all in public yet for several reasons. They've had so bloody many of them that they're still, the Secretariat for the committee is still going through them. The other thing is the committee has to go through the committee of 6 senators. I'm not on that committee, but I was participating as a participating member and asking questions. And I must thank Paul Scar, the Liberal senator, gave me first crack at asking questions because it was my motion that led to the inquiry. But I must say the inquiry has to review the submissions, and I think they've had more than 500 submissions, one of the largest responses ever. Now, some of those submissions making adverse comments about individuals, and so the committee has to either protect those individuals by not publishing those submissions, or publish the submissions and give the people who are receiving adverse comments an opportunity to comment back, to respond. So it'll take some time to go through that process. I think there are just under 50 submissions on the webpage at the moment. There some bloody good submissions there. So to summarise again the key points, people are seeing through Anthony Albanese's review, the pressure is really building with the evidence that so many people put out yesterday. Pressure is really building. A unanimous endorsement, unanimous, strong support for a Royal Commission. Unanimous, not just unanimous, unanimous, strong support. Very, very powerful day, and a powerful set of presentations and responses by witnesses, powerful submissions. I recommend you go and have a look at Julian Gillespie's and also Dr. Scott Prasser. People disgusted that Anthony Albanese broke his promise. I think they're the key points. So I'll open up for questions for a short time. We're over our hour and 10 minutes. So if you've got any questions. Oh, the rally in Canberra, someone wants to know. Of course. Oh, there's a rally against renewables in Canberra on Tuesday, the 6th of February, which is next Tuesday, this Tuesday. And they've got speakers from all over Australia. A lot of farmers, a lot of rural people who are having their countryside decimated, their communities decimated, their farms gutted by ridiculous quantities of solar panels, wind turbines. And by the way, you will see, I think this evening, a podcast that I made with Stephen Nowakowski, a real greenie. And then he's still a very strong conservationist, but he realized that while he was endorsing all these wind turbines and solar panels, he now knows they're destroying the country. So he's up against them. He's very, very powerful speaker against them. So look forward to that podcast, please. And come along to Canberra if you can. Join the rally against renewables. I'll give you a little example. Stephen Nowakowski, the ex-greenie who's still a conservationist, a true conservationist, he started going into the figures, and he realized that, for example, the capacity factor for solar panels during peak hour averages about 10% of the capacity. So if you need to generate so much electricity, that means you need 10 times that much in capacity from solar panels. For when they're operating at maximum, that means you need 10 times the transmission lines. That means you need so much more destruction of native habitat, so much more destruction of farms, of rural communities, and so much increase in costs of transmission. Transmission costs are up around 30, used to be 49%, they may be around 30%. If you've got 10 times the transmission that you need, that's 10 times the cost. Now do you see why solar and wind are so bloody expensive and driving us backwards? Come along on Tuesday. You'll hear speakers from all over the country. I remember being in leading the Galileo movement voluntarily for several years. We had many wonderful volunteers. One in particular was Paul, and he came to me one day in around about 2013, 2014. He said, mate, we're not going to get anywhere with this climate fraud, exposing this climate fraud until people start to pay a price. Till they get hit in the hip pocket, in the wallet. And I said, you're probably right. But he kept working. I kept working. Got in the Senate. Kept working on opposing this climate fraud. And now something's taken me by surprise. People are very, very upset. We've got letters here in my office from dedicated Green supporters, dedicated Greenies, saying they'll never go near the bastards again because they've woken up to the climate scam. They've woken up to the solar and wind scam. The solar and wind scam, God, I could talk about this for hours. Solar and wind scam is about taking money out of your pocket. If you use electricity, if you pay taxes, taking money out of your pocket and putting it in the pockets of parasitic billionaires whose behaviour is parasitic. Simon Holmes à Court, Twiggy Forrest, all getting subsidies. Ross Garnaut, Alex Turnbull. There's another one in there. Mike Cannon-Brookes. These people are parasitically taking subsidies from you and I, electricity users, driving up the price of electricity and making out like bandits. That's what's going on in your country, in our country. Come along on Tuesday if you can. Any questions? Thank you, Tracy, again. Thank you, Senator, and the people taking part in this situation. It gives people hope. I'm pleased about that. Anybody can come and support. Ambigua. As an mRNA injured person, 3rd year in a row, thank you so much for everything you are doing. Yesterday's hearing was great to see. Hopefully the MS media, mainstream media, we call them the mouthpiece media, the legacy media, the Big Brother media, the lamestream media. The mouthpiece media will cover it, but I'm not holding my breath. I did a brief pre-record with Rita Panahi on Sky News just before coming onto the live stream. So that hopefully will be on tonight. Very, very brief. But I don't think the lamestream news will cover it. Lamestream news media was part of the con job. Laughing Prophet. Man, what a face. Listen to the whole thing. Comments of gold. Senator Green, a time waster. Senator Green's actually quite a lovely person. I don't know what she's doing in the Labor Party, but she's quite a lovely person, but her comments yesterday were pitiful. I guess she has to toe the party line. That's what they do with the Labor Party. Otherwise, you don't get sent back to the Senate. You don't get pre-selected. Dawn asked what's happening with exiting the WHO, International Health Regulation Senator. Very little is happening about exiting, but there is a lot happening about the World Health Organization's international health regulations. They're being watered down with each successive issue. The people around the world who have been asking politicians like myself who have been standing up about this, and we've been pushing this against the World Health Organization for almost 2 years now. Been very vocal about it. The videos I made in 2020 in April, went overseas all around the world. We had the Africans standing up as nations. They don't trust the World Health Organization. They don't trust Billy Gates. They don't trust Gabby. They don't trust Jane Holton. They don't trust these people from any of these organizations, World Health Organization included. So they have been opposing it, and the World Health Organization's international health regulations have been watered right back. The treaty is nothing that won't comply with the World Health Organization's constitution. That means it'll all be voluntary. So that's what we're hearing. But don't take your foot off their throat yet. They know we're onto them. The globalists know that Davos is now being looked at with ridicule. So we're getting on top of these mongrels. They know we're watching. More and more people are watching. Don't take your foot off their throat. Keep telling the politicians in Australia, the gutless, ignorant, incompetent, dishonest politicians in Australia, to not pass the international health regulations or the pandemic treaty through Parliament. What's the name of it now? Pandemic treaty, pandemic accord, pandemic agreement. They keep changing it. Farmers all globally are protesting, Sarah says. Yes, she's right. Aren't they doing a marvellous job in Germany, marvellous job in Netherlands, I think in Austria too. And we've also got people like Viktor Orban, the president of Hungary, standing up. He has been now for a few years, because part of the issue of the globalists, part of the agenda is to destroy borders. Smash borders. When you smash borders, then you have a global governance coming in. Global protocols take precedence. So Viktor Orban in Hungary has said, no, we protect our borders. We'll take your people flooding over the borders back to Syria, back to Libya. Which the first duty of a government is to protect lives and to protect borders. Absolutely essential. That's why I like Donald Trump. He protected that southern border of the United States with Mexico, and Biden is encouraging them to roar in millions, and then probably just give them the opportunity to vote, hoping they'll vote Democrat. That's the way it works. Melissa Costa said Brightope was right regarding health versus farmer sales. Ian Brightope is wonderful, Melissa. I've talked to him many times. He really knows his stuff. He's a doctor. He was in ag science, I think. Then he decided to do medicine as a mature age student. So he's aware of what was going on with the pharmaceuticals. And he came out, and the conventional medicine wasn't for him. So he's been trained in conventional medicine, but he understands holistic medicine. And what does he call it? Anyway, natural medicine. And he combines both. But he believes that if you take the right supplements, vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and whatever he wants to tailor for your individual treatment, then that's the best way to treat it all. So I won't go into more details other than to say he's traditional Western trained doctor, pharmaceuticals, but he's also very natural. I've forgotten the name that he gives it. Integrative medicine. Excuse me. Wonderful brain. Space. Excessive immigration is not isolated to Australia. It is being weaponized across the West to destabilize. Exactly. Space tardigrade. Exactly. You nailed it. It's a part of the UN World Economic Forum. What do they call themselves? Alliance that was formed in 2018. By the way, the grub who fabricated climate fraud, Maurice Strong, he died in 2015, rose to the senior levels of the United Nations. He pulled many of the strings in the United Nations. He put in place Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. He said his aim is to put in place an unelected socialist global governance. That's what his aim is. He was also co-founder of the World Economic Forum. Instrumental in that other really hideous anti-human organization, WWF. Please do not donate to them. They're trying to shut down food production. They're buying fishing licenses in the Gulf of Carpentaria and shutting down fishing. They're doing the same with farms, doing the same with beef. They're doing the same in America with beef. World Bank, all these other globalist predators and parasites, Maurice Strong is aligned with them. And he was lining his own pocket with climate fraud. Jerry, the world's elite are working hard not to lose power and are desperate to control us. The majority, COVID, digital ID and money, climate control and online censorship are just a small part of it. Nailed it, mate. You're right on track. I didn't realize this until about 2008, 2010. Then I started to work out what was going on. They're trying to take us back to feudalism. A brief history. I've probably said it many times to you in the past. We used to live under feudalism. One person, the lord of the manor, controlled everything, and we eked out a living. He gave us enough land to take some food for ourselves, keep us barely alive, and the rest of the production of our labour we would give to the lord of the manor. And then along came the scientific revolution, the industrial revolution, and we started developing the middle class. And the middle class meant freedom of choice. And we got more freedoms. They don't like that. The globalist elitists, they don't like it, and they want to put us back in the bottle and control us and get us working for them again. That's what they're after. That's what the digital ID is about, digital currency is about. You're right, Jerry. I'll take one more question, and then... Any question? Take one more. Okay. Paul asked, do you have an email? I can send you 2 documents. Yes, the email, I won't see it quite often because I just can't answer them all. But if you send it, our staff are very trustworthy. Send it to senator.roberts@aph.gov.au. That's senator.roberts at APH for Australian Parliament House, .gov for government, .au for Australia. And with those words, I will finish off. So thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you hopefully, next week I might be in a Senate inquiry, again, and a different inquiry. Thanks for listening in. See you again in the future.